Welcome to Love Your Money today, everyone. I have a special guest on the show today, and that is my key person, my best hire ever, my director of financial planning, Jennifer Rupp, out in Indiana. Jen, why don't you take a second and introduce yourself?
Oh, thanks. I've been on the podcast before, but it's been a while. Uh, I am Jen, as Hillary's husband Robert calls me Jennifer. I heard
Jennifer.
that. I heard him reference me after you called me Jen. He referenced me back as Jennifer. I am in Indiana, as Hillary you so kindly mentioned. I have been working with you now for 7 years. And before that, I worked for a local firm to me in Indiana for 12 years. So I've been here a while. I've been doing this almost 20 years now. I've got two little kids that start school very soon, a seventh grader and a fourth grader. So I've kind of had them grow up with me working with you.
Yeah, your daughter, the gymnast, has Simone Biles aspirations.
I wouldn't get that far. I wouldn't go that far.
Let's see. So, this episode will air during anniversary month, the 10th anniversary of the company. And so the intention of our conversation today is to look back on the evolution of the company, our service offering, our professional relationship, the milestones, the struggles, the ways in which we've figured out how that we are two different people actually works magically for us and for clients because having two
Absolutely.
big brains is better than just one.
Yes.
So let's talk about. I had said in a previous episode, I can't quite remember the milestones of development of your role in the company. I just know that now I couldn't do it without you. I do remember that when you first applied for the position that was advertised on Indeed, that someone I had working for me at that time told you it was already filled.
It was.
Um, yeah.
It was quite
And then
disappointing.
and then I said, no, it's not. Let me talk to that person. So share with us, share with the listeners what you remember about what it was like to join a small company. I mean, I was like really one female out in San Jose, California with an admin, that you were willing to hang your hat on this hook and what came after that.
I actually went back and read through some of our emails, our exchanges this morning from before I started working with you when we were just before I even interviewed with you, right? The questions you were asking me. And one of them you asked was, I want to make sure that you're happy and thriving in your life working here. What employer says that? I mean, I think it just kind of sets the stage for what you created to be possible here, right? And what you want to make available to your employees as it may.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were lean. I came from a firm of mostly all men and felt held back kind of and
Yeah.
didn't really feel like I had anywhere to go or anything to learn really. And from what you had already created and the marketing you were doing and the work you were doing with clients, I saw it as this huge opportunity to be able to get to that next phase of my career and happiness and what I wanted to create with clients and provide to clients was in line with what you were already doing. And I could kind of see that vision that you had, even though we were small starting out. It was exciting and I was happy to take that risk.
It was exciting, and I feel like as our relationship coalesced, we got to a point where we almost had so much business coming in that we couldn't handle it. It was
Hmm.
almost like, hold the phone. I need a break.
Yeah, you
Um,
had your foot on the gas on your
yeah,
marketing machine. And it was
yeah,
like, okay, Jen, I need you to come in and it's gonna be just an influx of clients. I mean, yeah, it was very exciting.
yeah. Agree, and it still is. And, one thing I've really realized and internalized, I mean, I'd always heard business owners talk about how really it's all about the people. It's all about your team. It's all about development of your employees. And I really thought, but if Jen and I focus on excellence in service, that will be the difference maker. And we've had such clear, both positive and negative experiences with team members since then that I am now 100% a convert to the thinking it is all about your people.
Mhm.
And I've always been really clear to protect the team before the clients, even though the clients pay us. And I think some people's mindsets can get mixed up about that the client can treat your team badly or speak to them disrespectfully, and you can lack boundaries, and that can be a situation that perpetuates. But I always was 100% clear that wasn't the kind of dynamic I wanted to create. Uh, Talk about a little bit about what it's been like for you to become someone who manages people, not just other people's money.
That has been a little bit intimidating for me, because I do like the behind the scenes and I like to just do my work and know I'm pumping it out for people. But you're right. Yeah, having the team on board and aligned with what we're doing and managing people adds definitely a different dynamic to it. It becomes not just about the numbers, but also more about the environment that we're creating and what we're making available to people. Um, so that's been a little bit of a challenge, I would say, for me, a growing point, but just another opportunity that you've given to me to expand beyond
Well, to
where
be
I
more
was
clear, I,
comfortable.
I told you, John, this is what the company needs now.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly. And if there's a need to be filled, I will fill it to the best I'm able.
what's talk about what drew you to this line of work. I remember just being shocked when I was interviewing you and you said, I always knew I wanted to be a financial planner. I didn't even know people knew about the industry in college, right? So talk about what drew you to financial
Yeah.
planning.
So when I was in high school, I was seeing other family members struggling with their finances, and I was thinking, why is this? Why don't they have education on this? Don't they know how to do this? And I took an accounting class, I think, and that was where I was first introduced to personal finances. And that was where I just kind of fell in love with it. It was like, okay, there is a better way. There is structure you can put around this
Mm.
to make it so that you're not struggling, right? And so that was where I fell in love with it. And then when I went to apply for college, the school I was going to attend just had a business degree. My sophomore year, they offered an economics and finance degree, and my junior year, I got an internship at a financial planning firm, and the rest is history.
Yeah. It's kind of a big deal to get an entry level position in a fee only firm, not
Yeah.
just because it's stringent, but more because there aren't that many of them. And the people running those firms tend to be really overly emotionally invested in their firms. And I'm one of them. So you just happen to get in to an independent firm. Have you ever thought about that decision, fork in the road for you? What do you think about that?
Yeah, it was a huge opportunity. I mean, looking back now, I see it as it was a huge opportunity that I didn't even know was so valuable to me at the time, right? So many people who come into this industry have to start in the insurance or at, a large brokerage or something along those lines. And I didn't. It kind of fell in my lap. I was volunteering for a program um, at a local church, and we were mentoring kids and helping them with their schoolwork after school. And I was talking to another volunteer, and he was just asking, what am I going to school for? And I told him I wanted to be a financial planner. And he said, oh, Dave over there, he's a you should go talk to him. And then he offered me an internship, and then I worked there for 12 years.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, it just kind of fell in my lap. I wasn't applying for places. I wasn't even looking uh for work at the time.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah,
Well, lucky you. Lucky us.
lucky me. Yeah, that was my
What's
credo.
the most surprising thing about what you do? What's the thing that surprises you the most about our work with clients?
Our work with clients, I would say just what we've been able to create with them. Our clients are very open to the advice and recommendations that we give to them, and just the level of trust I think that people give to us. I mean, we earn it, we build it with them. But money can be a really sensitive subject with people, and
Yeah.
their just willingness to share everything with us. I value it. I know that it takes something to be able to do that, and I appreciate that. But it is kind of surprising that people are willing to be so open.
And what surprises you most about the evolution of your skill set and your role? In other words, what's been the thing that you look back and think, I had no idea I would have to learn that or internalize that or know that, and but now I do, kind of a thing?
Where to start? There's so much, right? I mean, I have so much in my brain that it's so hard to put it all down on paper to teach other people is a challenge, right? I mean, it's kind of job security for me in a sense that I do have all of this in my brain. Um, yeah. I would say, as far as in this industry, it really surprises me that I mentioned most people coming into the industry have to start in insurance or a brokerage. It kind of surprises me that the industry hasn't more evolved to the way we do things, right? As
Mm,
fee-only fiduciaries, that there are still so many people that tout insurance as an investment, or this is your strategy or a financial plan in that regard. So I would say, you know, as it continues to morph towards our RAA, and hopefully more of the other goes to the wayside of commission sales and people that aren't really acting in the best interest of their clients.
yeah, that's a really good point. I wouldn't have thought to say that. It more lives in the land of frustration for me than surprise, but it's a great point. All right, let's talk about numbers. So let's talk about how you've realized that you think about numbers that's different from the way other people think about numbers.
Because you tell me that.
I have highlighted some of the differences for you. Yes.
Yeah, I think you were the first person to tell me, Jen, people don't usually think like you do. It seems
It was like
obvious, but
illuminating for you to realize this.
yes. I mean, I just didn't have an awareness until it was pointed out to me that most people don't think about money the way I do. And so, I try to communicate the way that I think about it, right? While also understanding that other people they have other money past, they have other money stories to bring to the table, and trying to be empathetic about that, and help them learn the way of money as a tool,
Yeah.
and then implementing that into their financial lives.
So is that your money operating system?
Absolutely. Didn't know that was a thing until I started with you either.
Like, let's give people, I would bet if you think about who listens to money podcasts, and my podcast being called Love Your Money. So I'm obviously talking about the emotional side of money, that there aren't a lot of people with your money operating system listening. So, for example, how do you think about it when I know, for example, one of the things that in your marriage, your husband likes cars. And so he's always ready to buy the new car before you are. Another example, is there ever a time you're at the mall and you see something gorgeous? For me, it's purses, shoes, jewelry, whatever that you really want, but yet money is a tool. How does that go for you? Because other people get really like compelled around these kinds of, and there's like a lot of upsets in the kind of situations that I just described. How is that for you?
So I don't shop very much. I don't like the mall. Online shopping. I can talk to online
Okay, let's
shopping.
talk about online shopping.
Online shopping. So typically I have a price range where it's like, okay, I'm not going to buy that right away. I'm going to think about it for a few days and really decide if that's important and that's something I want to spend money on. One of the things that I implemented after I started working with you was a cash flow automation system that we teach to our clients and we've taught in our coaching programs. And so that has become a huge tool for my money. And, if the money's not there for it, then I'm not going to go spend it, right? So I've got accounts for my next vehicle, which I just depleted because I just bought a vehicle. Uh, and I've got an account for my travel. My husband and I are saving to go to Italy. So I've been saving in that account for 2 years now. Um,
Oh.
yes, yes. And it's not as fun to watch the balance go down as it was to watch it go up. But that was the whole point of it. Um, we talk about the things that we're saving toward. Yes, my husband is more apt to spend on large purchases and just get a loan for it than I am. But he has kind of delegated all of the financials to me so that, he's learned if the money's not in the account, then it's not going to
He ain't
happen.
buying it.
It's not happening. Exactly.
Do you experience having upsets about money?
No,
Yeah.
no.
Well, and I mean, that is the answer I was thinking you would give, but I think it's important for people to hear that. It's like, not that if you're listening and you do have upsets about money, that that's bad, but just that there are real other ways to think about money that produce different outcomes. And so it's just
Mhm.
illuminating. It's just like, oh, if I thought differently about that, it's not the actual money that's the problem. Possibly it's just how I'm thinking about it or looking at it. Any ways in which you think your money operating system might limit you?
I would say as far as, wanting to go and spend it on fun things is probably the limiting space, right? Like I like to know that it's in the account and if somebody says, "Hey, we're going to go on this trip," I'm not as likely to say, "Yes, I'm all in," right? It'll take me a little bit more to get to that point,
Hmm.
and make sure the money's in the account first.
Has your money beliefs or perceptions changed over the years since we've been working together?
I wouldn't say the beliefs about them have changed so much as just the framework that I've put around it, and the tools that I've implemented to make it work for me.
Hmm.
With the bank, setting up the bank accounts and the automatic transfers, those tools enable my money as a tool mindset, and they go really, really well together. Um,
Well, it's a very cool system. Once you get it working, it really
it
works. And
is.
if you're listening, we've published about cash flow automation on this podcast before, and there's another episode about it coming up in the next couple of weeks. So we will get to you with more resources. You can dig around on our website. We'll probably put something in the show notes for today's episode talking about that gives you resources that we've already published on how to implement the cash flow automation for yourself. It's very cool. What are your favorite client wins?
Oh gosh, there's so many. I mean, I've been doing this almost 20 years, so there's a lot of wins. I would say, enabling clients to overall enabling them to fulfill on their goals, right? Clients have taken sabbaticals, they've been able to retire earlier than they thought they could, spend more money than they did when they were working,
Yeah.
put kids through college without taking out loans. Those are goal-based wins that I'm really proud of, and I know that I've contributed to helping them get there, and that's really really touches my heart. That's my heart work, is knowing that people are meeting their goals. I'd say the most memorable wins are probably the transformations of people's money mindsets that I've seen over the years, seeing women empowered and educated and confident in their financial lives. I get chills thinking about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes tears, because it is emotional to see the transformation. Like I say, money's not emotional for me, but it's seeing people evolve and better themselves in their financial lives it's very impactful. It's beautiful.
It is. It is. There's one client in particular that I'm thinking of. who lost her husband, and she was in such a state of grief and anxiety. She didn't seem to be remembering what we were saying. So she would ask things multiple times. So we started putting together a resource document for her. So we have like her own little Wikipedia um, that she can rely on and read when she has questions. And invariably she does. And of course, as I've talked about on this podcast before, many, many times, nearly every widow or female divorcee that I know has a dude in her ear telling her what to do with her money. And this
Mhm.
poor woman has had to fend off many of those dudes. We call them the armchair advisor. But recently you had a conversation with that person, that woman. She's a couple years post the unexpected death of her husband. And she started talking about how she was going to set herself free, that she realized something unexpected happened to her and she didn't ask for it or plan it, but that she was going to get willing to plan it for and spend her money because she got a large insurance settlement, insurance proceeds.
Mhm.
So that it was kind of like we walked with her through that grieving period
Mhm.
and that she's coming out of it. And it's like I think we both feel personally a little bit responsible for a molecule of
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It's
been,
really lovely.
it is. It is. Yep.
What are your biggest professional challenges?
Mm. Well, I would say most of them came from the last firm I was at, and finding you on Indeed kind of transformed that for me. Um, I grew up at the last firm. I started, like I said, started there my junior year of college. So I went through all of my big life events while I was there. Graduated college, got married, bought my first house, met some
Hmm.
of my best friends, had both of my kids, right? We started off there as part of a group. So there were other offices. We were still independent, but we were affiliated with other offices. Two of the advisors in our office decided that wasn't a good fit anymore. And so we left and went out on our own and started our own RIA, registered investment advisor firm. And get into the jargon there, sorry. Um, but in that process, right, I learned a lot about the business, about compliance, operations. It was everybody had to pitch in, just trying to get us launched into the new firm. One of the owners was my mentor. I worked with him on all of his clients. And about 2 years after we started that new firm, he went on vacation and he passed away on vacation. He did a lot for the business before he left, and I kind of stepped in and took over a lot of his responsibilities. So I had to learn a lot in a very short period of time. I became the lead advisor for his clients, the chief compliance officer. I did payroll, hiring, right? The whole gamut. I mean, I got experience in pretty much every aspect of the business. I learned about succession plans and buy-sell agreements in a way that most people don't, right? I got real life experience. Of course, I'd rather not have learned about it like that, but I've been able to then share that with other business owners and show them how important that is. Um, and then I stayed there for another 4 years before it really became evident there was nothing left there for me. And I found you.
Well, you had this experience of this person in your life who was like a father figure
Hmm.
dying unexpectedly.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, a couple years after my own father had passed away. So
right.
there was a lot of emotion
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. And you didn't mention that to me when you were interviewing. And I found out in retrospect, and I thought, wow, this person's been through a lot. And do you want to say more? Will you please say more about when you say you learned, you didn't really want to learn about succession plans and buy-sell agreements, but you did? What? Because I don't think not everyone knows that phraseology. So tell them, say in plain language, why did that happen?
Well, as an owner of a business, if you pass away, your ownership transfers to usually to your spouse or your kids, right? You name
Mhm.
someone who's going to inherit that portion. And so the way that we had it set up was that it was a buy-sell agreement funded by insurance. So the insurance came to the business, and we were able to buy out his spouse so that she wasn't part of the business anymore. And so all of the ownership came back into the business. There's lots of ways of setting those up, but that's just how how ours was set up, because the spouse didn't want to have any part of how we were running it.
Right. Um, and of course, it goes without saying, if you die and your business passes to your spouse or your kids, well, your spouse and your kids probably aren't qualified to
Right.
step into your shoes. So the
Especially in
ownership
our
now
industry.
belongs, right? Well, I mean, doctor, lawyer, right?
Yeah.
Now you have an owner of the business who can't run the business, so it gets complicated.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, what's something that would surprise people about you?
Let's see. I love playing games. I'm very competitive. As you tell me, I like to be right, and I do. My husband also tells me that I like to win. I like to win. I realized last year that I was now past, right? My kids are seventh grade, fourth grade. I'm past the survival mode of motherhood to young children. I'm sure some of you can probably relate to that. You know, they're able to do so much on their own now, right? And so someone asked me uh, to tell them about what's been going on in my life, and I was telling them all about my kids' activities and my husband's, and I was like, I have nothing going on besides work and taking care of everyone. And so now I have some hobbies of my own, which I'm excited about. So I joined a euchre club. That's a Midwest game, which I'm going to teach you very soon, Hillary. Um, and then I have a group of girlfriends that we go out once a month for dinner. So I am expanding my hobbies and getting out of the house. Jen's getting out of the house. Working from home, that's a challenge.
The thing that has surprised me about our relationship is how different we are, right? I just think the minivan, the euchre, the right, and it's
Uh-huh.
and yet we have such great synergies when we come together. And I mean, there's that phrase, she's my right hand, but really, I think the better phrase is we're two halves of a whole because
Absolutely.
I think, we go to a financial planning conference and I'm headed straight for the investor psychology track. Like, I want to talk about how people feel about money, how they interact, how to give advice that people take, right? And you literally are, well, not literally, that's an inaccurate use of the word literally, but you're like a card file. You remember things from 4 years ago. It's crazy.
I think that's why
Um,
it works so well with us is that we are very different. We think differently. We're on the same mission, but we're coming at it from two different points of view. And that's really what makes it work and work well for as
yeah,
long as it has.
yeah. Um,
Complement one another.
it's great to have both of our skill sets in house. It serves our clients.
Absolutely.
um so let's talk about my signature question. Oh, you're my compliance officer, so you listen to all episodes of my podcast, so you do
Yes,
know the signature question.
I do. I do. And I'm
All
sure my
right.
response will not surprise you.
So Jen, if your money were writing you a thank you note or a love letter, what would it be thanking you for?
I think it would thank me for giving it a purpose. Like I said, I've got the money operating system, the cash flow automation systems in place where I separate my money into savings accounts. I automatically transfer money at each pay period. So each dollar that comes into our bank accounts has a purpose, right? It's may not be very exciting. My husband jokes that when we have money come in, he says, "Oh, that's already allocated, isn't it?" And I say, "Yes, yes, it is. Everything has a purpose." So that's what it would say. It would thank me for giving it a purpose.
Well, I also think maybe you find this true. If I say it out loud, you tell me. You, of course, learn from how you interact with your money, and you get to scale that and share that with clients. I mean,
Hmm.
you know, it used to be for me that I was advising multimillionaires during the day and not paying my bills at night because I was doing bad things with money, and I don't do that anymore. But your money gets to be an example for hundreds of client families.
Yeah.
you know um so
It's
um
applicable to anyone and everyone, no matter how much or how little you have, right? That system can be applied no matter what.
It is. And I mean, money follows the same commands. Money, every person is different, but money, how do I say this? There are universal lessons to
Yep.
money. And you want a financial advisor who has learned those lessons and
Hmm.
internalized them in a very deep and knowing way.
Hmm. And I
All
would
right,
say a lot
great.
of those lessons I haven't had to learn personally, but I've seen other people learn them.
Meet like me. Good. Well, thanks for joining me on Love Your Money.
Thanks for having me.